But then, what happens at the end of the story? Okay, then what? Okay, right. So Romeo doesn't get the message about the plan. He doesn't get the message. So when he sees her lying in the crypt, what does he do? Right. And of course, when she wakes up and sees him lying there dying, what does she do? So after they both committed suicide, what happens with their family? Somebody hasn't mentioned this yet. Right, the families find peace, and everyone is sad that the lovers have died, but there's finally peace between the Montagues and the Capulets. So now I have done my characters, my setting, the beginning, middle, and end of my plot, and I can retell this story just using that information. So I could say, in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, the Montagues and the Capulets are feuding. Romeo goes to a party where Romeo and Juliet dance and fall in love. Forgot to mention my setting, so I'll probably go back and say, in Verona, the Montagues and the Capulets are feuding. So now I have covered my setting and I've covered my part of my beginning. Romeo goes to a party. Romeo and Juliet dance and fall in love. Taken care of. Middle, big one. Romeo discovers that Juliet is a Capulet, but they both profess their love and decide to get married anyway. The next day, though, Romeo kills Juliet's cousin, which causes him to get banished. Juliet's really upset about this, but she comes up with a plan in which she's going to fake her own death and then run off with Romeo. Unfortunately, though, the message does not get to Romeo. Therefore, when he finds her supposedly dead, he decides to kill himself. She wakes up from her not death and kills herself as well. In the end, the families bond over the fact that both of the lovers killed themselves, and they finally find peace. So that's the way in which you can use this to create that nice summary. And again, the notes here can be brief. The goal is being able to give that nice oral retelling of what happened in the story. So now you're going to go ahead and practice this in a small group. At this point in time, I'm going to break from the role play, because essentially what would happen now is that I would have students get in groups of 2 and quickly summarize the true story of the 3 little pigs. In my fictitious class in my head, the students have already read this story before, are really familiar with this, so I'm expecting that this is going to be a very brief opportunity to make sure that students have a chance to support each other, and I can kind of feel out how students are doing on this. So, should be really quick. We're not going to do that now, as much as I'm sure you'd love to read a little John Schiska. So now students have come back. We've shared those. This is probably a 2-day lesson because of how long the Most Dangerous Game is, but I think it's important enough to have students be able to summarize that I'm willing to take that extra time. Okay, now you guys should be pretty familiar with the summary format. On our thumb, we tell the characters, then the setting, the beginning, including the conflict, then the middle, and if we have details related to all of those, we'll really be able to tell that really good retelling. This works for books, this works for movies, this works for anything that you're trying to retell. Okay, so now we're going to try this with the story about death that I promised from the beginning that is so good. It is one of my favorite stories. We will be working with it over the next couple of days. Today will be our first time reading it. You will have other chances to reread it again. We're going to do the 3-ring circus. So, as you remember, you have three choices. You can either read by yourself, you can read one-on-one with a partner, or you can come back to the literature circle table and read it with us as a group. As you read the text, take that piece of blank paper that you used in your small group and go ahead and draw your hand on there. I would make yours really beautiful like mine and make sure to leave some extra space in those last three fingers to be able to make sure that you're getting enough space for the beginning, the middle, and the end. And as you go through, make sure that you're jotting notes related to the character, the setting, the beginning, the middle, and the end. Any questions before we begin? Okay, anybody who is going to do partner reading, go ahead and grab your partner and start that routine. And then anyone who would like to work in the literature circle table, go ahead and meet me at the back. At this point in time, kids transition, read the story. I'd love for you to do the same and go ahead and jot your notes and write a summary and go ahead and share it with our small group in the D2L place so we can kind of see what everyone has done. This is really a lovely story. It is a little long, but hopefully it will be enjoyable enough. It's a great, great story for advanced middle school or for secondary 9th, 10th grade. After students have had a chance to do this, again, it depends on how long my class period is and how fast my readers are, whether I can do this in one day or two. We're going to go ahead and come back together and we're going to go ahead and share what they've done. So at this point in time, we would talk about what students had done the same and different. And I would mention that it was really important that they focus on main ideas as opposed to those little details. So today you learned a strategy to help you summarize text. We're going to continue practicing this throughout the course of the rest of the class, but you can use this for any narrative text that you read. In fact, you can use it for any narrative text that you run into. So even if you're using a movie, graphic novel, video games, some video games have enough of a plot structure that you could use this. You should always, hopefully, unless you're my grandfather, then you'd lose a few fingers, but you should always have your hand with you so you'll have a way to remember the different sections. The strategy will focus you on those important details and really help you remember what you read and discuss it with others. In closing for class today, what I'd like you to do is to go ahead and pull out your readers' notebooks. Go ahead and pull out a scrap piece of paper and write a brief reflection on making these summaries. So I'd like you to think about 3 questions as you read. The first one is, what part of summarizing is easy for you? The next one is, what part of summarizing is hard for you? And finally, the last one being is, what else in your life can you summarize besides just the most amazing, the most wonderful short story, The Most Dangerous Game? Let's go ahead and reflect on that, and we'll have a quick chance to share. Indeed you will. Have a quick chance to share before class is over.